the massive alien ship appeared above Earth. On a cold morning in January 2347, it was larger than anything humans had ever built, stretching nearly 10 kilometers from end to end. Its dark metal surface seemed to swallow light rather than reflect it. Within hours, every television, radio, and computer screen on the planet displayed the same message. Director Laura Mitchell was drinking her morning coffee when the broadcast began. She was 62 years old. With gray hair she kept short and practical, and eyes that had seen humanity through 3 major crises during her career. She set down her cup and watched as an alien figure appeared on her screen. The creature was tall and thin, with gray skin that looked like wet stone. It had 4 arms and a head that was too long to look natural to human eyes. When it spoke, the words came out in clicks and whistles. But somehow a translation appeared in text below. People of Earth. I am Ambassador Kethrel of the Voxian Collective, speaking on behalf of the Galactic Council. Your planet has been observed and evaluated. You have been found suitable for integration into the greater galactic community. You have 90 of your planetary rotations to prepare for full compliance with Council Directive 7. Laura picked up her phone and called the emergency line to the President. It rang once before Daniel Carter answered. His voice was tight with controlled panic. Laura, are you seeing this? I am seeing it, sir. I am on my way to Geneva now. The flight took 3 hours. By the time Laura arrived at the United Nations Space Command headquarters, the alien broadcast had ended and chaos had begun. Riots had broken out in 12 major cities. Religious groups were declaring the end times. Stock markets around the world had crashed. But Laura had no time to worry about any of that. She had 90 days to figure out what the aliens wanted and whether humanity could survive it. The answer came 2 days later, when a smaller alien vessel descended to Earth and delivered a formal document to the United Nations. Laura read it 3 times, hoping she had misunderstood. She had not. Council Directive 7 required humanity to disarm completely. Every weapon, from nuclear missiles to kitchen knives, was to be surrendered. All military forces were to be disbanded. All governments were to be dissolved and replaced with council-appointed administrators. Most disturbing of all, every human being would undergo genetic modification to remove what the council called aggressive tendencies. They want to turn us into sheep, said General Patricia Hawkins. When Laura shared the document with the emergency council, Patricia was a tall woman in her 50s, with dark skin and a voice that commanded attention. She had spent 30 years in the military and had never backed down from a fight. They want to cut out everything that makes us human. President Carter looked exhausted. He had not slept since the alien ship appeared. What happens if we refuse? Laura pulled up another document on the holographic display. According to the records they provided, the Council has integrated 47 other species over the past 10,000 years. The ones that cooperated were absorbed peacefully. The ones that resisted were pacified. What does pacified mean? Asked the Russian representative. It means they were conquered by force. Their populations were reduced to manageable levels. Their leaders were executed. Their cultures were erased. Laura paused. None of those species exist as independent entities anymore. They are workers, servants, soldiers for the Council. Nothing more. The room was silent for a long moment. So our choices are slavery or death, said President Carter quietly. Those are the choices they have given us, Laura agreed. But I do not think those are the only choices we have. She looked at General Hawkins. Patricia, you told me last month that the Orbital Defense Initiative was ahead of schedule. How far ahead? Patricia smiled, and there was something dangerous in that smile. Far enough, Director. We have been very busy since that ship appeared, and we have learned a great deal from studying their transmissions. Over the next 2 weeks, Laura and Patricia worked together on a plan. They brought in the brightest scientists from every nation on Earth. They shared technology that had been kept secret for decades. They set aside old rivalries and focused on a single goal: survival. The aliens, it turned out, had made a mistake. They had broadcast their demands on open frequencies, using technology that humanity could intercept and analyze. Within days, human scientists had begun to understand the principles behind alien faster-than-light communication. Within weeks, they were applying those principles to weapons development. "They think we are primitives," said Dr. Nathan Cole, the lead physicist on the weapons project. He was a small man with thick glasses and a habit of talking too fast when he was excited. "They think we are still banging rocks together. They have no idea what we can do when we are motivated." Laura visited the secret construction facilities 3 times during the 90-day period. Each time, she was amazed at how much progress had been made. Ships were being built in orbital factories that had not existed 2 months ago. Weapons were being tested that bent the laws of physics in ways she did not fully understand. But she understood one thing clearly: humanity was not going to surrender. On day 8, Ambassador Kethril sent another transmission. His tone was impatient. "People of Earth, your integration period ends tomorrow. We have received no formal acceptance of Council Directive 7. We have received no communication of any kind. This is your final opportunity to comply peacefully. If you do not respond by the end of tomorrow, the pacification fleet will be dispatched." Laura recorded her response personally. She sat in a plain room with a single camera, wearing a simple gray suit. She did not raise her voice or make dramatic gestures. She simply spoke the truth. "Ambassador Kethril. Members of the Galactic Council, humanity has received your demands and has considered them carefully. We have studied your history and the fate of the species you have integrated. We understand what you are offering us, and we understand what you are threatening us with." She paused and looked directly into the camera. "We decline. Earth will not surrender. Earth will not disarm. We will not allow our children to be modified into something less than human. We will not allow our cultures to be erased. We will not become slaves." "You have told us that resistance is futile. You have told us that no species has ever successfully defied the Council. Perhaps that is true, but we are not like the other species you have conquered. We are humans. We have survived ice ages, plagues, and world wars. We have survived disasters that should have ended us 100 times over, and we have done it by refusing to give up, no matter how bad the odds. So send your fleet. Send your armies. Send everything you have. We will be waiting, and you will learn something that the galaxy has never seen before. You will learn what happens when humans decide to fight." She ended the transmission and sat back in her chair. Her hands were shaking slightly, but her voice had been steady throughout. Patricia was waiting outside the recording room. "That was quite a speech, Director. It was the truth," Laura said. "Now, let us hope the truth is enough." Above Earth, the alien observation vessel recorded the transmission and sent it to the Council. In the great chamber where the High Arbiter held court, the message was played for an audience of 100 species. When it ended, High Arbiter Zelenock was silent for a long moment. Then he turned to his war council and gave the order: "Dispatch the pacification fleet." "The war for Earth had begun, High Arbiter." Zelenock had ruled the Galactic Council for 3,000 standard years. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had watched stars die and new ones be born. He had overseen the integration of 23 species during his reign, each one following the same pattern. First came denial, then anger, then desperate attempts at resistance, and finally, acceptance. It was as natural as the movement of planets around their suns. But as he watched the human transmission for the 3rd time, something felt different. "They are bluffing," said his senior advisor. A creature called Mothrin, whose body looked like a collection of floating spheres connected by thin threads of light. "All primitive species make threats when they are afraid." "It means nothing," perhaps Zelenock replied. His voice was deep and slow, like rocks grinding together. "But there is something in this female's eyes, a certainty that I have not seen before." "You give them too much credit, High Arbiter. They have possessed space travel for less than 200 years. Their most advanced weapons are nuclear devices, primitive tools that our shields will brush aside like dust. This will be a quick pacification." Zelenock was not so sure, but he gave the order anyway. Commander Yithmar was summoned to the Great Chamber to receive his instructions personally. Yithmar was a veteran of 37 successful pacifications. He was massive even by the standards of his species. With 4 thick legs, 2 powerful arms, and a head covered in armored plates, he had never lost a battle. He had never even come close to losing a battle. "You will take 200 warships," Zelenok instructed him. "Each vessel is to be fully armed and crewed. You will approach the human homeworld and give them one final chance to surrender. If they refuse, you will pacify their population by any means necessary." Yithmar saluted with his upper arms. "It will be done, Hig." H. Arbiter: "I estimate the operation will take no more than 1 rotation. Do not underestimate them, Commander. This species has unusual characteristics. They are violent, yes, but they are also creative and adaptable. Their history shows a pattern of surviving situations that should have destroyed them. They have survived because they have never faced a real threat." Yithmar replied confidently. "They have only fought each other. They have no concept of what true power looks like. They will learn." The pacification fleet departed from Council Space 8 hours later. 200 warships, each one 3 kilometers long, armed with weapons that could crack planets open like eggs. 1,000 support vessels accompanied them, carrying troops, supplies, and the equipment needed to process a planetary population for integration. As the fleet traveled through folded space toward Earth, Yithmar reviewed the intelligence reports on humanity. The species was young, barely 1,000,000 years old. They had only developed technology in the last few thousand years and space travel in the last few hundred. Their homeworld was rich in resources but poorly defended. They had a few orbital stations, some primitive satellites, and a small collection of ships that were used mostly for mining and transportation. Pathetic, Yithmar muttered as he studied the data. They do not even have proper military vessels. His tactical officer, a slender creature named Vextel, looked up from her console. "Commander, there is something strange in these readings. The human orbital infrastructure has changed significantly since our last scan 90 rotations ago. They have constructed new facilities, many new facilities, and there is unusual energy activity around their moon." Yithmar waved a dismissive hand. "They are probably trying to build weapons. Let them. Nothing they can construct in 90 rotations will make any difference against our fleet." On Earth, the mood was tense, but determined. Director Laura Mitchell had moved her command center to a bunker deep beneath the Swiss Alps. General Patricia J. Hawkins was with her, along with representatives from every major nation on the planet. "The alien fleet has entered our solar system," reported Lieutenant Kevin Price, a young officer with steady hands and a calm voice. 200 primary vessels, approximately 1,000 support craft. They will reach Earth's orbit in 6 hours. Laura nodded. "Are our forces ready?" Patricia pulled up a holographic display of the solar system. Green dots appeared around Earth, in orbit around the moon. And scattered throughout the asteroid belt, we have 12. Combat vessels hidden behind Luna, 47. Orbital defense platforms around Earth, and approximately 8,000 missiles armed with gravitational warheads positioned throughout the system. She smiled grimly. "Plus a few surprises we have been saving. Will it be enough?" "Honestly, Director, I do not know. But it will be more than they expect." The hours passed slowly. People around the world gathered in their homes, in churches, in public squares, watching the sky and waiting. Some prayed, some wept, but most simply waited with quiet determination, ready to face whatever came. In the bunker, Laura watched the alien fleet approach on her display. The ships were enormous, dwarfing anything humanity had ever built. Their weapons were capable of destroying cities with a single shot. Their shields could withstand forces that would vaporize. Human vessels, but humanity had something the aliens did not expect. They had 90 days of desperate innovation. They had the combined genius of every scientist on Earth working toward a single goal. And they had something else, something that could not be measured or quantified. They had the stubborn refusal to accept defeat, Commander. Yithmar opened a communication channel as his fleet took position around Earth. His image appeared on screens across the planet, his armored face filling living rooms and offices and bunkers. "People of Earth, I am Commander Yithmar of the Galactic Council Pacification Fleet. Your leaders have refused the generous terms offered by the Council. This refusal is foolish and will result in unnecessary suffering. He paused, letting his words sink in. I am giving you one final opportunity. Surrender now, and your population will be integrated peacefully. Your essential needs will be provided for. Your lives will have purpose in service to the greater galactic community. Refuse, and you will be pacified by force. Many will die. Your civilization will be dismantled. Your people will be scattered across 1,000 worlds, never to see their homes again. You have 1 hour to respond.
Ow.
The transmission ended. In the bunker, all eyes turned to Laura Mitchell. She stood slowly, her face calm and composed. She had known this moment was coming. She had prepared for it. She had rehearsed what she would say 100 times in her mind. But now that the moment was here, she found that she did not need the rehearsed words. She knew exactly what to say. Open a channel, she said. Let me speak to the commander directly. The communication officer made the connection. Yithmar's face appeared on the main display, his small eyes showing surprise at the quick response. Commander Yithmar, Laura said. I am Director Laura Mitchell of the United Earths Defense Council. I speak for all of humanity. Have you come to surrender, Director? No, Commander. I have come to give you a warning. She leaned forward slightly. In the next few hours, many beings are going to die. I want you to know that we tried to avoid this. We asked for peaceful coexistence. We asked to be left alone. You refused? You gave us only 2 choices, slavery or death. We chose a third option. Yithmar's face showed confusion. There is no third option. Laura smiled, and there was no warmth in it. There is now, and you are about to see what it looks like. She cut the transmission and turned to General Hawkins. Patricia, light them up. The first missile launched from a hidden silo in the Rocky Mountains of North America. It was followed a heartbeat later by 100 more from locations scattered across the planet. Then 1,000 more. Then 5,000. From orbit, Earth looked like it was exploding. Trails of fire rose from every continent, from islands in the Pacific. From platforms floating in the Atlantic Ocean, the missiles climbed through the atmosphere and kept accelerating, reaching speeds that the alien fleet's sensors could not track. Commander. Yithmar stared at his tactical display in disbelief. The humans were launching primitive missiles at his fleet. It was suicide. His shields would stop them without effort. His point defense systems would destroy them before they got close. Commander, something is wrong, Vextal reported, her voice tight with concern. These missiles are accelerating beyond their projected capability. They are using some form of propulsion we have not seen before. That is impossible. Their technology cannot support such systems. The readings are clear, Commander. They are approaching at speeds that will impact our shields in 17 seconds. Yithmar opened a fleet-wide channel. All vessels raise shields to maximum. Prepare point defense systems. This is a minor inconvenience, nothing more. The first wave of missiles struck the fleet's outer formation. Yithmar expected to see small explosions against his shields, tiny flashes of light that would fade in an instant. Instead, he saw his lead vessel collapse. The missile did not explode in the traditional sense. Its warhead created a gravitational singularity, a point of infinite density that crushed everything within 100 meters into a space smaller than a grain of sand. The ship, called Glorious Purpose, simply folded in on itself, its 3 kilometers of metal and machinery compressed into nothing. What was that? Yithmar screamed. Before anyone could answer, more missiles struck. The infinite wisdom was crushed. The eternal justice was torn apart as 2 singularities formed inside its hull. The divine mandate lost its entire forward section in the bunker beneath the Alps. General Patricia Hawkins watched the battle unfold with fierce satisfaction. Gravity bombs, she said to Laura. Dr. Nathan Cole's team developed them based on principles we extracted from the alien communications. They create miniature black holes that last for approximately 3 seconds before evaporating, long enough to do the job. Laura watched as another alien ship collapsed on the display. How many do we have? 8,000 in the first wave. Another 4,000 in reserve. Commander Yithmar was shouting orders, trying to bring his fleet under control. Ships were scattering in all directions, their formations breaking apart as captains tried to avoid the deadly missiles. But the weapons were too fast, too numerous. Every few seconds, another ship died. Spread formation, Yithmar commanded. Maximum dispersal. Do not let them target multiple vessels at once. The fleet obeyed, expanding from a tight formation into a loose cloud that spread across thousands of kilometers. It helped. The missiles could no longer destroy multiple ships with near misses, but it also meant the fleet could no longer coordinate its defenses effectively. Lieutenant Kevin Price, watching from his position on orbital defense platform Atlas 7, saw the opportunity immediately. Director, the enemy fleet has dispersed. They are vulnerable to Phase 2. Laura nodded. General. Patricia activated her communicator. All Constellation-class vessels, you are cleared to engage. Operation Hornet is go. Behind the moon, 12 ships powered up their engines and launched themselves toward the scattered alien fleet. They were small, by galactic standards, barely 400 meters long. But they were fast and agile. Designed for a type of warfare the Council had never encountered, Captain Stephen Grant commanded the lead vessel. The Constellation itself. He was a pilot who had spent 20 years flying everything from cargo shuttles to experimental fighters. He had volunteered for this mission knowing it might be his last. All ships form up on me, he ordered. Attack pattern Delta. Hit them hard and keep moving. Do not let them get a targeting lock. The human vessels dove into the scattered alien fleet like wolves among sheep. They twisted and turned in patterns that the alien targeting systems could not predict. Using maneuvers developed from centuries of aerial combat, their weapons were smaller than the gravity bombs but just as deadly, firing concentrated beams of gravitational force that punched through alien. Shields like needles through cloth. Commander Yithmar watched in horror as the tiny human ships tore through his fleet. Every time his gunners tried to target one, it would spin away at the last moment, hiding behind his own vessels so that missed shots struck allies instead of enemies. They are using us against ourselves, he realized. They are making us destroy our own ships. Grace Leo was the tactical officer aboard Constellation, a young woman with quick eyes and quicker reflexes. Captain, I have 3 targets in range. Recommend attack vector 773, confirmed. All hands brace for high-G maneuver. The Constellation rolled onto its side and accelerated at 12 times Earth's gravity, a force that would have killed unprotected humans instantly. The crew wore special suits that kept them alive, but it still felt like an elephant was sitting on Stephen's chest. They passed between 2 alien warships and fired in both directions simultaneously. Both vessels lost their engine sections and began spinning helplessly through space. 2 more kills, Grace reported. Enemy fleet is down to 142 combat-effective vessels. Less than an hour. The humans had destroyed nearly a third of the pacification fleet. Yithmar could not believe what was happening. He had fought 37 pacifications. He had never lost more than a handful of ships. Now, he was watching his fleet be torn apart by a species that should not have been able to scratch his hull paint.
Commander?
We are receiving a transmission from the human vessels. They put it through? Stephen Grant's face appeared on the display. He was sweating, his face tight with the strain of combat, but his voice was steady. Commander Yithmar, this is Captain Stephen Grant of the Earth Defense Force. I wanted to give you a message to take back to your council. You dare to mock me? No, Commander. I am completely serious. Stephen's eyes were hard. You came to our home. You threatened our families. You told us to surrender or die. Well, we have a different idea. We are going to fight. We are going to keep fighting until you leave or until we are all dead. There is no third option. You are insane. Even if you destroy my entire fleet, the Council will send another and another. You cannot defeat the entire galaxy. Maybe not, Stephen admitted. But we can make the cost so high that the galaxy decides we are not worth the trouble. That is the human way, Commander. We do not surrender. We do not give up. We make our enemies pay for every inch of ground, every life they take. And eventually, they decide to go find easier prey. He smiled, and there was something almost gentle in it. Your move, Commander. Keep fighting and lose more ships, or run away and tell your masters what you found here. Either way, Earth will still be free when the sun rises tomorrow. The transmission ended. Yithmar sat in silence for a long moment. His tactical officer reported that another 3 ships had just been destroyed. His fleet was down to 139 effective vessels. He had never retreated from a battle. He had never even considered it. But he had also never faced an enemy like this. An enemy that should have been helpless, but instead fought like cornered predators. An enemy that seemed to have no fear of death. Commander Vextel said quietly, "What are your orders?" Yithmar closed his eyes. When he opened them again, his decision was made. All ships fall back to the outer system. Maximum speed. We are withdrawing from Earth space. For the first time in 3,000 years, a Council pacification fleet retreated from battle. On Earth, in bunkers and homes and public squares, people watched their screens in disbelief as the alien ships turned and fled. Then the disbelief turned to joy. People hugged strangers. They wept openly. They shouted at the sky. They had done it. Against impossible odds, humanity had won. But Laura Mitchell knew the truth. This was not a victory. It was only the first battle. The war was just beginning. The news of the pacification, fleet's defeat spread through the galaxy like fire through dry grass. Within hours, every species in the Galactic Council had heard the story. Within days, it had become legend. High Arbiter Zelenock sat alone in his private chambers. Watching the battle recordings for the 100th time, he saw his ships being crushed by weapons that should not have existed. He saw tiny human vessels dancing through his fleet, destroying vessels 100 times their size. He saw Commander Yithmar, the greatest military commander in Council history, give the order to retreat. How is this possible? He asked the empty room. How did a primitive species develop such weapons in 90 rotations? His advisor Mothrin entered through the side door. High Arbiter, the Council is assembled. They are demanding answers. Let them demand. I have no answers to give. With respect, High Arbiter, you must address them. There are already whispers of rebellion among the outer systems. Species that accepted integration are beginning to question whether it was necessary. If we do not respond strongly to this situation, we may face a larger crisis. Zelenock rose slowly from his seat. He was old, even by the standards of his long-lived species. He had seen so much in his 3,000 years of rule, but he had never seen anything like this. Summon the War Council, he said, and bring me everything we have on humanity. Everything. I want to understand this species before we face them again. The War Council met in the Great Chamber, a vast hall that could hold representatives from 1,000 worlds. Today it held only the senior military commanders and intelligence officers of the Council. The humans used gravitational weapons, reported Admiral Cathros, who had been studying the battle data. They created miniature singularities, artificial black holes that lasted for approximately 3 seconds each. Our shields are designed to deflect energy weapons and kinetic impacts. They have no defense against gravitational manipulation. Can we develop a counter? Zelenock asked. In time, perhaps, but it would require fundamental changes to our shield technology. Changes that would take years, possibly decades. We do not have decades. What else? The intelligence chief, a creature called Varn, whose body was mostly composed of interconnected crystal structures, projected a series of images onto the main display. Our analysis suggests that the humans reverse-engineered our communication technology during the 90-day integration period. They extracted the fundamental principles and applied them to their existing weapons programs. Varn paused. This is unprecedented. Most species require centuries to understand Council technology. The humans did it in 3 months. They are more intelligent than we assumed. It is not merely intelligence, High Arbiter. It is something else. Something we have not encountered before. Varn's crystals flickered with what might have been unease. The humans call it desperation. When their survival is threatened, they are capable of achievements that seem impossible. Their history shows many examples. Diseases that should have destroyed them were defeated through rapid innovation. Wars that seemed hopeless were won through unexpected tactics. They are a species that becomes more dangerous when cornered. Zelenak absorbed this information in silence. Around him, the other council members were murmuring among themselves, their voices carrying tones of fear that he had not heard in centuries. "What do we do now?" asked Commander Yithmar. He had returned with the remains of his fleet, his reputation in ruins. "Do we send a larger force? Do we bombard the planet from outside their weapons range?" "We could destroy their planet," Admiral Cathros suggested. "A focused gravitational bombardment would crack their world in half. No species could survive that." "And what message would that send to the rest of the galaxy?" Zelenak replied, "That we destroy what we cannot control, that we murder entire species when they refuse to submit. We would lose more through such an action than we would gain." He stood and looked at the assembled commanders. "No, we will not destroy Earth, but neither will we allow this rebellion to go unanswered." On Earth, Director Laura Mitchell was dealing with problems of her own. The victory celebrations had lasted for 3 days. Now reality was setting in. "We lost 4 ships and 217 crew members in the battle," General Patricia Hawkins reported. "Our missile reserves are down to 30%. The orbital defense platforms use nearly all their ammunition. If the aliens attack again tomorrow, we would be in serious trouble." "They will not attack tomorrow," Laura said, "but they will attack again. And when they do, they will be prepared for our weapons." Captain Stephen Grant was in the room as well, having been summoned from his ship for this briefing. His arm was in a sling from an injury sustained during the battle, but his eyes were clear and alert. "We need allies," he said. "We cannot fight the entire galaxy alone. But the Council has integrated dozens of species. Some of them must be unhappy with their situation. If we could contact them, convince them to support us, we might have a chance." "The Council controls all interstellar communication," Patricia pointed out. "We have no way to reach other species." "Then we need to find a way," Laura said. "We need to show the galaxy that resistance is possible, that the Council is not invincible." The discussion continued for hours, plans and counterplans being proposed and rejected. Finally, as night fell over Geneva, a communication officer interrupted with urgent news. "Director, we are receiving a transmission from the alien fleet. They have not left the solar system. They are positioned near Jupiter, and they are asking to talk." Laura and the others hurried to the communication center. On the main display, a familiar face appeared. It was not Commander Yethmar this time, but Ambassador Kethril. "The same alien who had delivered the original ultimatum," Director Mitchell Kithril said. His voice was different now, lacking the arrogance it had held before. "I am speaking on behalf of the Galactic Council. We wish to propose a temporary cessation of hostilities." "A ceasefire?" Laura asked cautiously. "Why?" "Because the Council has realized that the situation with humanity is more complex than initially assessed. We underestimated your species. That will not happen again. But further conflict at this time would be costly for both sides." "You mean you need time to develop weapons that can counter ours?" Cathrell's face showed what might have been surprise. "You are perceptive, Director. Yes, that is part of our reasoning. But there is another factor. The Council is not unified in its opinion of how to handle humanity. Some factions want to continue the pacification at any cost. Others believe that a different approach is needed. The ceasefire will give time for this debate to be resolved." Laura considered this carefully. A ceasefire would give humanity time as well. Time to rebuild their forces, to develop new weapons, to reach out to potential allies. It was not an ideal situation, but it was better than facing another attack immediately. "What are your terms?" "No hostile actions by either side for a period of 1 standard year. During this time, representatives from both sides will meet to discuss the possibility of a new arrangement. Not integration, but something else. The details would need to be negotiated, if the negotiations fail." Kethrill's face grew serious. "Then we will resume hostilities." "But both sides will have had time to prepare. It will be a fair fight. Laura almost laughed. Nothing about this situation was fair. Humanity was one species against an empire of hundreds. But she kept her face calm. I will present your offer to our World Council. You will have our answer within 24 hours. The transmission ended. Laura turned to the others. It is a trap, Patricia said immediately. They want time to prepare for another attack. Of course it is a trap, Laura agreed. But it is also an opportunity. 1 year gives us time to do things we could not do otherwise. We can learn more about the galaxy. We can try to find allies. We can develop new defenses. Stephen nodded slowly. And we can show the rest of the galaxy that humanity is not going anywhere. That we are here to stay. Laura looked at the display, where the alien ships were visible as tiny dots near Jupiter. 1 year, it was not much time, but it was more than they had before. We accept the ceasefire, she decided, and we use every moment of it to prepare for what comes next. Because she knew, with absolute certainty, that the peace would not last. The Council would come again, stronger and better prepared, and humanity would need to be ready. The first battle was over. The war was just beginning. The year of ceasefire passed faster than anyone expected. Humanity used every moment of it. Director Laura Mitchell traveled to the edge of the solar system to meet with representatives from species that had been quietly watching the conflict. Some came out of curiosity, wanting to see the species that had defeated a council fleet. Others came with hope, believing that humanity might be the spark that would ignite a revolution against council rule. The Villani were the first to offer formal support. They were a small species, conquered by the council over 500 years ago. Population reduced to a fraction of what it once was. Their ambassador, a delicate creature with wings of iridescent light, spoke words that made Laura's heart ache. For 500 years, we believed resistance was impossible. We accepted our fate. We forgot who we were. Then we saw your transmission. We saw a species refuse to surrender. We saw you fight and win. And we remembered what we had lost. The Villani could not offer military support. The Council monitored them too closely. But they could offer information. Intelligence about Council operations and weaknesses that humanity would never have discovered on its own. Other species followed. The Korath, the Mendi, the Thalax. All of them conquered. All of them broken. All of them watching humanity with a mixture of awe and desperate hope. They formed a secret network of communication, sharing what they knew, preparing for a day when they might rise together. On Earth. General Patricia Hawkins oversaw the expansion of the defense fleet. The 12 Constellation-class vessels became 50. New weapons were developed, counters to the counters that the Council was surely preparing. The orbital defense platforms were rebuilt and improved. Captain Stephen Grant became Admiral Stephen Grant. Commanding the newly formed Earth's defense fleet, he spent his days training crews, planning strategies, and thinking about the battles to come. Grace Liu remained at his side as his chief tactical officer. She had proven herself in the first battle and had become one of the most respected officers in the fleet. Together, they prepared for a war that everyone knew was coming. As the year drew to a close, negotiations between Earth and the Council reached a critical point. Ambassador Kethrel had traveled to Earth personally, accompanied by representatives from several Council factions. The situation has changed, Kethrel told Director Mitchell in their final meeting. When we first came to your planet, we saw you as primitives to be absorbed. Now we see something different. We see a species that may be too costly to conquer. Then let us live in peace, Lara said. Let us chart our own course among the stars. It is not that simple. The Council has maintained order in the galaxy for 10,000 years. If we allow humanity to remain independent, other species will demand the same treatment. The integrated populations will rebel. The entire structure of galactic civilization could collapse. Perhaps that structure needs to collapse, Lara replied quietly. Perhaps a civilization built on forced integration and cultural erasure does not deserve to survive. Kethrel was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was different, softer, somehow. More genuine. I have lived for a very long time, Director Mitchell. I have seen many species join the Council, willingly or otherwise. I have told myself that it was for their own good, that integration brought stability and prosperity, that the loss of independence was a small price to pay for the benefits of membership. He looked at her, with eyes that held something like shame. Am no longer certain that I was right. The final negotiation session took place aboard a neutral station built specifically for this purpose, positioned at the outer edge of the solar system. High Arbiter Zelenak himself attended. The first time a High Arbiter had personally participated in negotiations with a primitive species, Lara. Mitchell faced him across a table of polished stone, surrounded by advisors and translators. The fate of humanity would be decided in this room. Humanity has presented the Council with a unique challenge, Zelenak began. You are the first species to successfully resist pacification. You are the first to demonstrate that our military is not invincible. You have inspired unrest among populations that had accepted their place in the galactic order. We have done what any species would do when faced with enslavement, Laura replied. We fought for our freedom. Yes, and that is precisely the problem. If we allow you to remain free, we set a precedent that will threaten the stability of the entire galaxy. Zelenak paused. However, if we attempt to pacify you by force, we will suffer losses that may be unacceptable. Our analysts believe it would take the full military strength of the Council to defeat Earth, and even then victory would not be certain. So we are at an impasse. Perhaps, or perhaps not. Zelenak leaned forward. The Council has debated this matter extensively. Many voices have been raised, many arguments made. In the end, a decision has been reached. Laura waited, her heart pounding. Humanity will not be integrated into the Council. You will not be forced to disarm or submit to genetic modification. Your governments will remain intact. Your culture will be preserved. For a moment, Laura could not believe what she was hearing. Instead, Zelenak continued, we propose a new arrangement. A treaty of mutual recognition. Earth and its colonies will be acknowledged as an independent power within the galaxy. You will have the right to trade, to explore, to expand within agreed boundaries. In exchange, you will not actively encourage rebellion among integrated species. And you will respond to reasonable requests for assistance in matters of mutual concern. You are offering us equality. We are offering you something that has never been offered before. A place in the galactic community as partners rather than subjects. Zelenak's ancient eyes met hers. The Council has learned a lesson from humanity, Director Mitchell. A lesson we should have learned long ago. Some species cannot be conquered. They can only be befriended or avoided. We have chosen friendship. The treaty was signed 3 days later. It was not everything humanity had wanted, but it was more than anyone had dared to hope for. Earth was free. Earth was independent. Earth was recognized as an equal among the stars. When Director Mitchell returned to Earth, she was greeted by crowds that stretched for kilometers. People wept openly. They shouted her name. They celebrated in the streets for days. But Laura did not join the celebrations. She went instead to a small memorial that had been built for the crew members who died in the first battle. 217 names, carved in black stone. Admiral Stephen Grant found her there as the sun was setting. You should be celebrating, he said quietly. You saved us all. You saved us all, Laura corrected. You, Patricia, the crews who fought, the scientists who built the weapons, every person on Earth who refused to give up. She touched one of the names on the stone. And them. They died so that we could live free. Stephen stood beside her in silence for a long moment. What happens now? He finally asked. Laura looked up at the sky where the first stars were appearing. They were no longer just points of light. They were destinations, possibilities, futures waiting to be claimed. Now we do what humans have always done, she said. We explore. We learn. We grow. We reach for the stars, not because someone allows us to, but because it is who we are. And if the Council changes its mind, if they decide to try again, Laura smiled, and there was steel beneath the warmth. Then we do what humans have always done, when someone tries to take our freedom. We fight. We survive. We win. She turned to face him. But I hope it does not come to that. I hope we can build something new with the Council. Something better than what came before. You think that is possible? I think anything is possible, Admiral. That is what being human means. We look at the impossible and we say, why not? Then we find a way to make it happen. Above them, the stars continued to appear, filling the sky with light. A new chapter in human history was beginning. For the first time, humanity was taking its place among the stars, not as slaves or subjects, but as equals. The galaxy would never be the same. And somewhere, in the vast reaches of space, other species were watching. Species that had been conquered and broken. Species that had forgotten what freedom meant. They saw what humanity had accomplished. They began to remember. They began to hope. The story of humanity was just beginning, and it would be a story worth telling.